Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's virtual education program at Cancer Support Community South Bay. I'm Rebecca, the program manager, and I welcome you to this workshop titled Mindful Eating During the Holidays. Before we begin, if this is your first time joining us, CSC South Bay's mission is to uplift and strengthen people impacted by cancer by providing support, fostering compassionate communities, and breaking down barriers to care. Our vision is that everyone impacted by cancer receives the support they want and need throughout their experience. We serve the South Bay, Long Beach, and Orange County area all at no cost. Our program includes support groups, networking groups, healthy lifestyle classes, social activities, and educational programs like this workshop. Educational programs are open to all. If you'd like to hear more about our services or join our community, please visit our website at cscsouthbay.org. Before I introduce today's speaker, we ask you to keep your microphone muted to eliminate any distracting background noise. Please feel free to enter any general questions into the chat function found at the bottom of the Zoom window anytime, and we'll get to them after the presentation. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our workshop speaker. Alexandra Sullivan is a registered dietitian and board-certified specialist in oncology nutrition. As an outpatient dietitian at Cedars-Sinai Patient Family and Support Program, Alexandra provides evidence-based, individualized nutrition counseling to patients throughout their cancer journey. Alexandra has also improved the nutrition status of thousands of people with cancer, knows firsthand about treatment side effects, and explores a full range of physical, emotional, spiritual, and environmental influences that affects one's health when treating her patients. Thank you so much, Alexandra, for being here with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and excited to be talking about mindfulness, which is a very important topic, and especially during this time of year. We can practice mindfulness all day, every day, and it can really transform our lives, not only our approach to eating, but our approach to moving and to connecting with others. So this presentation, we're first talk about the fundamentals, then go into mindful versus mindless eating, talk about some techniques for mindful eating, and then specifically relating them to holiday challenges. During holiday meals, we're often busy doing a million things. We're chatting with family we haven't seen in a while, or we're getting our house ready for a party, or we're doing all these things, bustling around, and we're not necessarily experiencing the now. So when I go through kind of the concepts of mindfulness, it's really going to be all about bringing us to the present moment. So briefly, for those of you who attended my last talk, I talked about eating the rainbow. And when we think about the foods that we should eat after a cancer diagnosis and for risk reduction, we really want to look at a plant-forward eating pattern. So with whole grains, vegetables and fruits, legumes, studies consistently show that this type of eating pattern is associated with a lower risk of cancer. And why? Well, plants contain phyto, meaning plant nutrients. And these nutrients are, vitamins, minerals, fiber, other components that have anti-cancer fighting properties. And we want to get these nutrients from food because there's a synergistic effect. It doesn't produce the same effect in our bodies when we take a supplement form. We really need to get there's a benefit to eating the foods in its whole form. And so, protein is important as well. But for most of us, we're not eating enough plants. We're not getting enough fiber. And especially in the holidays, when we think of the food that's available at different parties, there's often these types of foods that we really want to increase our intake of are missing. So being mindful can help us to choose these foods in addition to whatever else is around us that we're enjoying. And then this just kind of shows all the different cancer-fighting foods, the different colors, and, we can incorporate all of these into yummy, healthy holiday meals. So principles of mindfulness. Really, it's about slowing down, being fully present in the moment, um, and connecting with the present. So my one of my favorite movies is Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and one of the quotes, one of the things he says is, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you can miss it. And I think that we 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 often miss it if we're not paying attention. And so, mindfulness is being completely aware of all that is within ourselves and around us and our environment without judgment. And that's the most important part. So it's experiencing the present moment with the heart or mind by bringing the heart into the now. So that's how we get the symbol for mindfulness. And it's an incredibly effective tool to create distance between your thoughts and yourself. So recognizing that we're not our thoughts, but we can notice our thoughts and pay attention to them. But with mindfulness, you're creating a gap between the stimulus and the response. So we're not reacting reflectively to things. We're making a mindful choice when we're faced with options. And when I was putting this slide together, I was thinking a lot about my husband, who is an amazing person, and I love him so much. And he also is I would say, an angry driver. He gets very upset when he's driving, and if somebody might cut him off, or if something happens, he responds reflectively. He'll honk the horn, or he'll scream, something that's just a reflex. And if we can be mindful, you can recognize, okay, I'm having the thought that this person is a ASS or whatever, and I don't need to necessarily respond reflexively, reflectively. I can calm myself down. I can take a mindful breath and not have that response, because a response in that situation might even make it worse. And it's definitely not going to make his anger go down. But the being mindful and recognizing, okay, I'm having the thought that I want to honk the horn, or I want to do this, but I can choose not to, is really important. So key concepts, as you see on the left, the 3 A's: attention, awareness, acceptance. And then, of course, the present moment, self-regulation, what I was just talking about, non-judgmental, so really being compassionate, and then, of course, insight. So Hoffman et al., this was from the Journal of Clinical Psychology, and this was a while ago, but described mindfulness as a process that leads to a mental state characterized by non-judgmental awareness of the present moment experience, including one's sensations, thoughts, bodily state, consciousness, and environment, while encouraging openness, curiosity, and acceptance. So really honing in on the non-judgmental awareness, staying in the present, being curious about, what we're feeling, what we're thinking, accepting what is in front of us. So how can we become more mindful? We can integrate mindfulness into our daily activities, paying attention to our movements, in our breathing, which really helps to calm the mind, slow things down. And then, of course, in eating, which I'll go into, but really paying attention to the experience and without judging. So that's really important. So in moving, present moment focus. So, if let's say we're doing a dance class, you want to enjoy what the movement that you're doing, rather than judging or thinking about, oh, when I did this class last week, I, was better at it, or next week I'm going to do this differently. It's really just focusing on the present, linking your movements with your breath, noticing what's coming up. So being aware of your body, and then, being curious without judgment. So some examples would be like a walking meditation. So next time you're going for a walk, instead of listening to a podcast or talking on the phone, really pay attention to how, maybe even do it barefoot in the grass, how your feet feels on the ground, paying attention to your breath. What scents, smells do you notice around you? And then other options of just ways to connect moving with mindfulness. But what I like a lot is the everyday activities. So thinking of brushing your teeth, or um, today when I was blow drying my hair, you know, sometimes I'll be reading a book or I'll doing something else, or I'm just mindlessly in my thoughts. But if you can focus on the actual activity, it slow down. So maybe next time you try brushing your teeth, use your left hand if you're a righty. And you really have to pay attention. It's not just an automatic thing. And you can kind of notice what comes up for you. And then, running or hiking. So these are obviously more intense kind of activities. Um, and on my run this morning, I decided not to use my headphones, not to, I had my phone in my belt, but I wasn't paying attention. I didn't have it on or anything. And I was just really paying attention to how my legs felt, how I was breathing, noticing that in the beginning I was not sweaty, and I kind of could feel how the sweat was starting to happen. And then I run by the beach, so listening to the sounds of the waves, and it was a totally different experience than what my typical runs might be, where I'm listening to a podcast or doing something else. And then breathing, we know that the breath can help us to become calm. It also helps us to become aware of our emotions. And sometimes we, if we have uncomfortable emotions, it might cause us to get a snack to distract ourselves, even if we're not hungry, going to the bag of chips and just mindlessly eating the chips. But we can think about mindful breathing as a way for your body to snack on some mindfulness, recognizing what feelings are there, but allowing our body to be nourished by our breath. So breathing in, I feel nourished and satisfied by my in-breath. Breathing out, I release my cravings. So breathing in, if everybody could take a deep breath, acknowledging, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. This is a really easy way to get back in touch with our breath. Another one is if it's an emotion that we're experiencing, breathing in, I'm aware of my emotion, my frustration, my anger, my sadness. Breathing out, I embrace it. So being mindful about an emotion is not trying to make it go away. It's acknowledging it, kind of embracing it, and returning to your inner sanctuary of peace. And smile. Sometimes just the act of smiling, even if we're feeling sad or angry, can kind of calm down our nervous system and bring us to a place of peace. And I think that the breath is something that we always have with us. We can use it anywhere, wherever we are. And I noticed this is especially important sometimes when we're dealing with toddlers. So my 3-year-old was very, very upset because I wouldn't let her watch TV this morning before school. And she reacted and she was, screaming. And I could have reacted by matching that voice, screaming. Instead, I noticed my own emotions coming up. And so I had to breathe in and out myself so that I could gently tell her, okay, Millie, let's do some mindful breathing. Breathe in, smell the flowers, breathe out, blow out the candle. And it took a little while, but we do this a lot. So she knows that when I'm kind of giving her this prompt, it's an indication that she is really in her emotions, and the breath can really bring her back and be grounding. Okay, so now we'll talk about what you all are here to talk about, which is mindful eating. And so this is really about being fully present in the moment, cultivating a relationship with food that honors both our nutrient needs and also our, cravings for joy and family and flavor and satisfaction. So eating mindfully is about slowing down, really listening to our bodies, appreciating the flavors, the textures, and then acknowledging, our cravings or our hunger fullness cues, and really being grateful for the food that we're eating and the experience that we're having. So, mindful eating is the non judgmental awareness of the experience of eating. So, recognizing our body cues, our thoughts, our emotions, our senses, our environment to support nourishment and well being. It is not a diet. It is not about giving anything up. It's about the experience of food. It's about experiencing the food more intensely, savoring it, and really enjoying it. And it's a skill set. So just like mindful breathing, mindful moving, mindful eating, it's a skill set. We cultivate it. We practice it. So it's eating with attention or intention rather than just autopilot, being curious, and so observing without labeling food as good or bad. And this is really hard to do because, we think, okay, vegetables are good for me, cookies are bad for me. And, there's a lot of goodness in cookies. And, sometimes there might be vegetables that we really don't enjoy. And if you really don't like broccoli, broccoli's not necessarily one of your good foods. So kind of being curious, like, and without the labels, without the judgment. And then of course, compassion is so important. So we'll talk about mindful eating, but what is mindless eating? So we know that there's other cues that cause us to eat, and oftentimes we're not overeating because we're hungry. We're overeating because of family, friends, packages, plates, names and numbers, labels and lights, colors and candles, shapes and smells, distractions, distances, cupboards, containers. So this was from Brian Watsnick, who's a researcher, and he wrote the book Mindless Eating. This is in the early 2000s, I think. And he really presented a lot of studies that show that when we're distracted, we tend to eat faster and for longer, often to the point of overfullness. In a certain study, men and women who were asked to or randomized to eat while watching TV ate an average of 71% more macaroni and cheese than the men and women who didn't have that distraction. And moviegoers will eat 34% more stale popcorn if it's served in a large bucket rather than a medium bucket, and even more than that if the popcorn is actually fresh. And there's a whole host of other studies that he did, but really recognizing, what is our trigger? So, and then this is showing like the distraction, are we eating while we're on our phone? Are we eating while we're working? Are we eating while we're watching TV? Are we getting hungry because a commercial comes on for, these juicy, tender, and irresistible chicken nuggets? So with mindless eating, we're eating really fast, and mindful would be enjoying our meals, enjoying our company. With mindless, we tend to start our eating maybe when we're starving or not hungry at all. And then we end up eating more to the point of being sickly full. So mindful eating is not letting ourselves get to the point of being hangry. My father and I are both the same way when we're hungry. We get very angry. And I know that about him. I know that about me. And it's the worst feeling to have. When I'm feeling hangry, I am miserable. You don't want to talk to me. You don't want to be in my way. And because of that, I always will plan ahead. I knew that I was going to be doing this presentation between 12 and 1. I made sure that I had something beforehand because I also have a lunch meeting later. So I don't want to eat too much, but I want to allow myself to not be hangry. And so kind of honoring that. And that might involve planning ahead. And it's about fueling your body in a healthy way rather than trying to be on a diet or try different supplements. It's using other tools to manage emotions rather than using food, which is often mindless. So hunger and satiety, or hunger and fullness, those are physiological sensations that we experience. And when we think of the term hunger, it technically, it may refer to the biological need to eat, but then we also can think about hunger to describe just the desire, and that doesn't have to be if we're physiologically hungry. So the sight or smell of food, being around food at parties or in the break room. You could eat a beautiful lunch, feel perfectly satisfied. You're definitely not hungry, but 15 minutes later, you decide to go to the break room to fill up your water bottle, and there's a big plate of cookies or chocolates. That's going to be a cue to eat. Is it okay for you to take a cookie or take a chocolate? Absolutely. But let's do it mindfully. Let's acknowledge, okay, I'm not really physically hungry right now. I just ate a great meal. It was delicious. I got my nutrient needs met. And this cookie smells amazing. I can enjoy it. I can eat it mindfully. And maybe I don't eat the whole thing, or maybe I do. But it's really being intentional and not just mindlessly grabbing it because it's there and it smells good, and then you're eating and you don't even remember what it tasted like. So these external cues are powerful cues that can lead us to eat even if we're not hungry. And again, that can be okay. We just want to be aware and be mindful. So I like this picture a lot. This is, a woman at her desk, and it's all the different cues of eating. The clock or the cupcakes are there, but she's also working. She's not paying attention. She could end up eating that entire, stack of cupcakes. So, these are you eating in this way? And if you are, those are probably indications that, you're not being mindful. So as opposed to, making a snack, getting out some chips and salsa and putting it in a plate and putting it in front of you, are you just getting the bag of chips and the thing of salsa and just eating it like this? Are you very distracted? Are you opening or getting some cookies from the pantry that you take a bite and they're stale and you don't really care, you just keep eating it anyway? All of these things are indications that you're not being mindful, and we want to pay attention so that we can change these habits. So the three types of hunger. So physical hunger is biological hunger, right? So our body's digestive systems, blood sugar levels, brain, and hormones, they communicate to us that it's time to eat. When we're hungry, two hormones are released, ghrelin and neuropeptide Y, and that causes these physical gnawing feeling in the stomach, comes on gradually. As we eat, the satiety hormones are released, so leptin and other hormones, and that then decreases our appetite. So that's kind of physical hunger. And then there's also taste hunger, which is kind of just craving a specific food. So that might be the cookie example. You walk into the break room, you smell the cookies, you have that taste for cookies. You probably aren't physically hungry, but you could also, let's say you had gone to the break room before your lunch. You're physically hungry and you're having the taste hunger for the cookie. With emotional hunger, it's really about using food to manage an uncomfortable emotion or even a comfortable emotion, but typically it's used as a coping mechanism where we're not really able to deal with this intense emotion. And with emotional hunger, if we eat in response to it, it might provide short-term relief, but it's not really meeting our needs of what that emotional need might be. So, and this is common, but we really want to just pay attention to it and think about what other tools we have to manage emotions. So the hunger fullness scale, this is a really good way to get in touch with your internal cues, right? So there are all these external cues. We can know that they're there, but being mindful about how we're really feeling can allow us to distinguish between what our body really wants, the internal cues, from the external or environmental cues or emotional cues. So kind of the goal would be to start eating at around a 3 or a 4. So you don't want to be starving. You don't want to get hangry. Um, and you also don't want to be full. I mean, and if you are eating when you're full, recognizing, well, what's the reason that I'm eating? So using the scale to kind of stay within that range of starting at a 3, 4, finishing at like a 6, 7. So you're not getting to that point of discomfort. And this is really important, especially in holiday meals, because studies show that, on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, sometimes Christmas Eve, those days we tend to eat, 4 times the amount of calories that we would normally eat. And I'm not saying we can't do that, but we also want to be in touch with how we're feeling. Are we getting to that fullness point where we feel sick? Or are we, mindfully eating, enjoying meals, recognizing that we can have leftovers? It doesn't need to all be eaten at that one time. So I guess just if you're able to look at this scale, kind of thinking about right now what level you're at. So maybe you haven't eaten since breakfast, and that was at 8 o'clock. It's now 12:30. Are you at a 3? Is it time to eat? Or did you not maybe eat enough breakfast and you're at a 1 or a 2? Or maybe you just ate lunch or a snack. But thinking about where you're at now and noticing, what are your physical sensations? What are some emotions that might be happening? I practiced this presentation with my husband this morning. Actually, not, it was this morning, but it was about, I would say 9 o'clock. And I asked him to rate where he was. And he told me he was at like a 5. And I said, "Oh, what did you have for breakfast?" And he was like, "No, nothing. I haven't eaten since last night." And I was pretty surprised that he wasn't hungry, but we're all different. So there's no right way. It's really just being able to tell where we're at. So mindful eating happens before the meal, during the meal, and after. So before, we want to kind of pause, thinking about what level we're at, what emotions are coming up, what's our environment, and really paying attention to being present in the moment. Let's think about where did you have breakfast this morning? Did you eat breakfast in your car on the way to work? Did you skip breakfast? Did you eat breakfast while you were, listening to a podcast or watching TV? And then try to set an intention that for your next meal, you'll avoid the distractions. And then also kind of expressing gratitude so that it gives you that presence that you're acknowledging the food that's in front of you. And it doesn't need to be like saying grace, but it could be, or it could be just, acknowledging that you're grateful for the food you're about to eat. And then really important to eat slowly. We want to allow time for our body to release these satiety hormones, leptin, other hormones that are going to recognize that our bodies are becoming full. So, if we eat too fast, we tend to eat more. We're going to end up probably being more at like an 8 or a 9. We also want to pay attention to sensation. So the taste, the smell, the textures, how does the food feel in your mouth? What is it, what flavors are you noticing? Is it spicy, sweet? And then also putting fork down between bites. So that's something that if you pay attention, you'll notice, depending on if you're distracted. If not, like sometimes we just we're not pausing. We're not chewing our food well. We're not noticing. And so put your fork down, savor the meal. It doesn't need to be eaten quickly. And then check in halfway through. So you might have plated a plate and it has all of your stuff. And maybe that amount that's on your plate is what you will eat. Maybe that amount is not even enough and you're going to get seconds. But check in. See how you're feeling. Give your body time and really notice if the flavors of the food change in the beginning of the meal towards the end, because we know that first bite, no bite after is ever going to taste as good as that first bite. So just, really kind of notice that. And then afterwards, how am I feeling physically? Do I have more energy now because I ate? Am I happy? Am I sad? Am I being judgmental? What's going on? And so this is a really good practice that I don't expect any of you or to have a raisin in front of you or a piece of chocolate, but this is a practice that you can do maybe afterwards or whenever on your own. But taking, a strawberry or a raisin or even a piece of chocolate, something that's small that, we could probably eat 6 of in a minute, but take time to experience it with all of your senses. So noticing using your sight, what does it look like? What color is it? If it's a raisin, is it an oval? Is it rough? Is it smooth? The touch, so feeling it. How does it feel in your hand? Is it hot? Is it cold? Notice any aromas, what it might smell like. And as you're eating it, or even playing with it, listen to the sounds. Do you hear it breaking if it's a piece of chocolate? Noticing the flavors. So like I mentioned before, how does the flavors evolve? Where are they landing on your tongue? Do you notice a difference between the third bite from the bite prior to it? So I don't think we should be eating every single bite of food at every meal this way, but I think that this is a good exercise to do so that we can remember that we want to slow down. We want to take into consideration all of these senses. So how can we be successful? So again, let's try to remove distractions. So rather than eating at your desk or on the couch in the front of the TV, try to sit at the table. Use, smaller plates and bowls. Pre-portion your snacks. Don't just take the whole bag there, and make your plate pretty. That's always going to be a better way to be grateful for the food you're eating, to really savor it. Keep fruits and vegetables visible. So have those as prompts. Keep them on the table, or even, at your desk. And then you could even do like a pause and write hunger note. So allowing yourself to remember that scale and thinking about that scale when you're portioning out your food. And then at restaurants, maybe you're looking at the menu first, seeing what you're going to want before you order, checking in with your hunger, fullness, maybe asking for sauces or dressings on the side. If it's a large, if it's going to be a large portion, maybe split it with somebody or, half it, and continue to eat slowly. So enjoy the company that you're with, but also put the utensil down when you're speaking. Eat slow and try to stop at satisfied rather than stuffed. Other ways to be successful is, notice if you're being judgmental. So when you're thinking about your thoughts, oh, I shouldn't eat the second bite of cake. I shouldn't eat dessert. Replace that with, I noticed that I want some dessert. And how does this feel for me right now? Don't say that it's bad. I may not be hungry, but I have the taste hunger. And that's okay. Can I have a couple bites of the dessert? Can I enjoy it? Can I eat it slowly? Having self-compassion. So recognizing, my body's been through a lot. I'm doing my best to nourish it today. Saying I choose rather than I can't. So, oh no, I can't have chocolate. There's too much sugar. You can say I choose not to have chocolate. And I'm doing this instead. So it's always a choice. And that's really important. And then in social situations, set boundaries. Maybe bring a dish that works for you. If you're going to go. So for me, for Thanksgiving, I was really excited. This was actually the first year that we didn't host it, or it wasn't at my family's house. We went to a friend's, and I brought my famous Charlie Bird Farro salad, because I knew that the only vegetable options that were going to be there was green bean casserole and mashed potatoes. And while I enjoy those things, I also wanted to have salad available. Um, and so that's okay. And then you're sharing that with other people. Okay, holiday challenges, that's where we're at now. And again, I want to encourage everybody to recognize that, this is not a time of trying to be on a diet or shoulds or should nots. It's totally okay to kind of indulge in our holiday favorites, but it's really important to do it in a way that respects your body's needs. So again, mindfulness is not about restriction. It's about fostering harmony between the body and the mind and really being gentle with yourself. So common challenges, of course, buffet style meals, endless desserts, having that all or nothing thinking. So, oh, well, I already ate 2 cookies, so I might as well just continue eating, whatever. And we really want to avoid that. Family expectations. Oh, take more, take more. You didn't eat enough of this. Of course, emotional eating, maybe having alcohol, which could lower our inhibitions, being kind of off schedule. So these are all challenges that will arise, and recognizing them is being mindful of them. So it can help us to enjoy food more, really honoring our hunger fullness, reducing overeating and guilt by paying attention to what our bodies need. Some strategies before the event, we don't want to save up by skipping earlier meals. Why? Because we're going to get hangry, and that will often lead to overeating or eating too fast, which doesn't allow us to really enjoy the meal mindfully. So maybe if you're going to be presented with a lot of options and you're probably going to eat a more variety than you're used to or different types of foods than you're used to at sitting at one meal, have a smaller kind of pregame snack and have it include some protein and fiber. Make sure that you're staying hydrated. If you are going to have alcohol, have water with that. Setting an intention. So, I'll enjoy my favorites mindfully. And then when you're at the event, again, eating slowly, taking breaths, connecting with your breath, recognizing what your hunger is, looking at what you truly want. So, oh no, I can't have this. I'm going to eat this instead, but I really want that, but I'm not going to have it. Have it. Eat it mindfully. So pick foods that you love and foods that make you feel good. Slow down, notice the flavors and the textures, and check in mid-meal. And then, we're always going to be forced or surrounded by some pressure and kind of have scripts ready. So, oh, everything looks amazing, but I'm satisfied for now. Maybe splitting dessert. So I went to our head and neck Christmas party last Friday, and there were lots of desserts, and there were these really yummy cookies from one of my favorite bakeries, which happens to be in a gas station. It's called Zoe's, but it's amazing. And I wasn't hungry. We had a great dinner, and so I was pretty full or comfortable. But then the dessert comes, and rather than say, "Oh no, I'm not going to have any," I had some, but I split it, and it was a perfect amount, and I enjoyed every bite, and I didn't feel guilty, and I didn't feel deprived. So that's a really good tool to use. Setting boundaries, so I'm listening to my body. Focusing on the connection over food. And then some other scripts, oh, I'm full, but I'd love to take some home, or it looks delicious. I'm pacing myself. No, thank you. I'm satisfied. Being comfortable to say these things. So some myths, mindful eating doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily eat less, but it means that we're eating what our body needs. One of the myths, oh, I don't have time. It's too hard. Even taking 3 mindful bites can help. It's about clean eating. It's not about that. And there's no such thing in my mind. It's about attention, intention. There's no perfection. And so, in talking about this, what are the benefits? Well, when we eat mindfully, it's going to reduce maybe binge eating, emotional eating. It'll improve our awareness of portion and satiety, of that feeling of fullness, greater enjoyment and satisfaction with the food, possibly helping with weight management or metabolic markers, so blood sugar responses, insulin, things like that. Really can help with reducing stress, improve mood, quality of life, building trust with our body singles, supporting adequate nourishment despite a variable, sorry, appetite, really reducing stress around food choices. That's a big thing. And when we can remove the judgment from it, hopefully we can remove the stress. And then enhance the enjoyment and the social connection with meals. So the past is already gone. The future is not yet here. We only have the present moment. And if we miss the present moment, we miss our appointment with life. So Thich Nhat Hanh was kind of what he brought mindfulness into the 20th century, I think around like the 1970s. So I encourage you to look him up. I think I have a resources page. Yeah. So he wrote a book with Lillian Chuang, who's a dietitian, and I apologize if I said that incorrectly. But their book, Savor Mindful Eating, Mindful Life, is amazing. I definitely encourage it. Some other apps that can be helpful with cultivating mindfulness: Headspace, Calm, 10% Happier. And then other books: Intuitive Eating, Mindful Eating. I mentioned Savor, The Joy of Half a Cookie, and then Eat What You Love, Love What You Eat. And that's by Michelle May. And now I am done. So I will stop sharing and open up the floor for any questions or comments that anyone may have.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alexandra, for such an informative, I think, especially like perfect timing as we get into those holiday parties and everything looks so good and such wonderful tips. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to put it into the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Uh, so something that I've had to like let go of is food waste. Like I absolutely hate food waste. But at the end of the party, what's typically leftovers, most of the time it's like dessert. So I'm like, I don't want it to go to waste. It's so delicious. So I used to come home and freeze it all. But then who eats all eats all of that? And I was like, oh no, like I don't think I should be, eating all the trying to find like good homes for it. Or like having people take it, or having to just say, I'm sorry, like I don't want all of this in my body, so I have to let it go, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that that's a good thing to think about is we don't want to waste food.
Mm.
And our body is not that. A doctor friend of mine said this to me years ago. Your body is not a waste basket, like waste your waste and also waste. So, it's, we don't want to waste it by throwing it away, but we also don't want to like kind of put more in with if we're comfortably full, or it's something that we don't necessarily want. Can we give it to other people? What else can we do with it? Because I think that is something that comes up a lot.
Absolutely. There's a comment. This was such an excellent presentation, realistic, relatable, and manageable. This will also be applicable for mental health, anxiety management. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for the important reminders. Yeah. Um, if
And
anyone
again,
wants, yeah,
I want to emphasize that that it's a skill set and it's a practice that we cultivate over time and we can always go back to. And we all types of hunger are valid. So when I talked about physical versus taste versus emotion, they're all valid, but being mindful is helping us to understand, where we're at and why we're eating, and can really help us enjoy eating more, and enjoy moving more and doing things that we love. Oh,
Um,
sample responses.
yeah, if you can go back to that slide. Yeah, if you want to take a screenshot, I think those are great examples. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, then there's
Oh,
yeah,
I'm
so
so sorry.
yeah, Murray is also mentioning about anyone wants to connect. Absolutely. I'm right
Yeah, and
there with you. Yeah.
I would encourage really focusing on other tools to help with those emotions rather than using food to um, quench those emotions, and kind of trying to find other skills, other tools to not judge the emotions, recognize the thoughts, recognize the urges, and see how you can respond in different ways. Sorry, I'm finding this slide. Okay, here we go. Okay, is everybody seeing the slide now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Mindful eating strategies. Perfect. Well, I just want to thank you so much, Alexandra, for such a wonderful presentation again, and everyone for joining us.